Chapter 15:13. Fengjiu glanced at the two who had put away their swords and retreated. Since they weren't her enemies, she naturally wouldn't touch them. Hence, she only glanced at them briefly before shifting her gaze towards the group of people who were heading towards her. 6 people. 3 of them were at the peak of the nascent soul stage and 3 of them were at the beginner level of the fairy realm. This kind of combat power was absolutely shocking. She didn't know if she could withstand it. Her eyes moved slightly and a dark light flashed in the depths of her eyes. It seemed that she had to do something. Her clear eyes swept across Chendao's worried face in the distance and she curled her lips into a smile. Suddenly, she raised her Qingfeng sword and spun around. Her entire body flew more than 10 meters into the air before she stopped. Her clear and cold voice rang out at this moment. I have no intention of becoming enemies with the Danyang sect. I killed 3 Yangtze for a reason. If you let me go now, no one from the Danyang sect will die. Otherwise, the sword has no eyes and you will be responsible for your own deaths. The clear and cold voice carried a powerful aura of spiritual energy as it rang out from the night sky. Like ripples of water, it rippled outwards and spread into the ears of every disciple in the sect. The powerful aura and Fengjiu's warning caused their hearts to skip a beat and they couldn't help but feel nervous. Just as the disciples of the sect were becoming anxious and restless because of her words, the sect leader's deep and angry voice rang out and echoed in the sky. You infiltrated my sect, killed 3 Yangtze, and set fire all over the Danyang sect. If I don't kill you, won't the world think that the Danyang sect is a place to be offended? Today, even if you have 3 heads and 6 arms, you won't be able to break out of our sect's territory. The sect leader, who was standing in mid-air with his hands behind his back, shouted in a deep voice. His voice contained a powerful aura that spread throughout the entire sect. Just as he finished speaking, he shouted again in a deep voice. Open the sect's great array. Trap this arrogant woman. Don't let her escape. When the people guarding the array heard the sect master's words, they immediately worked together to activate the sect protection array. After a loud rumble, a visible aura of spiritual power rose from the ground around the sect like a halo and surrounded the sect. The power of the halo was powerful and intimidating, and a terrifying pressure spread out in an instant, causing the disciples of the entire sect to cry out in surprise. They even forgot to extinguish the flames that had not been extinguished, and just stared blankly. Oh my God! The Great Sect Protection Array. This formation would only be activated when there was a great enemy. Many years had passed, and this sect-protecting formation had never been activated. Who would have thought that it would be used to deal with a little girl today? Fine. Although this woman's strength was frighteningly powerful, she was still a woman after all. Yet, she had to use the sect protection formation. If news of this were to spread, the outside world would probably explode. However, no one knew that when the Great Sect Protection Formation was activated, Tun Yun, who had left the rear mountain with Shangwan Wanrong, leaped up and sensed a powerful aura spreading behind him. When he turned his head to take a look, worry involuntarily surfaced in his eyes. Master, you must wait for me. Wait for me to come back. Just as Tun Yun gritted his teeth and was about to quickly send Shangwan Wanrong to Leng Shuang and the others, who were waiting for her outside, a deep and magnetic voice suddenly sounded from the front. Chapter 15:14. Hearing this familiar voice, Tun Yun's heart trembled. It abruptly raised its head and saw Xianyuan Mose, who was dressed in black robes and emitting a powerful aura, rushing towards it. Even though Xianyuan Mose was currently wearing a mask and his face couldn't be seen clearly, it still made Tun Yun extremely excited. It let out a low roar and quickly leapt forward. Shangwan Wanrong, who was lying on Tun Yun's back in a semi-conscious state, was sweating from her forehead due to her injuries and Tun Yun's movements. Although she was not completely unconscious, she was not far from it. When she heard a man's voice, she tried to raise her head, but all she saw was the corner of a black robe and a masked face. Master is still inside. She wants me to bring her mother out first. My lord, those people are bullying Master with their numbers. They seem to have activated the sect's protective formation to prevent Master from escaping. My lord, hurry and save Master. I'm worried that she won't be able to hold on, Tunyun hurriedly said. Tunyun said anxiously. He had not expected to meet him here. He only knew that Ling Shuang and the others were waiting for them outside. This was a message that had been sent out long ago. He knew that Ling Shuang and the others would be waiting for them outside. However, the Yama Lord's arrival had exceeded his expectations. Perhaps even Master had not expected this. When Xianyuan Mose heard this, his entire body's aura instantly sank. A chilling aura emanated from his body, enveloping the entire forest in a gloomy atmosphere. He stepped forward and glanced at the injured Shengwan Wanrong on Tunyun's back. A malicious glint flashed through his eyes when he saw her injuries. If even she was injured like this, then wouldn't Fengjiu be? Ling Shuang and the others are in front. Go on over. Send her back first. Leave your master to me. Xianyuan Mose spoke in a deep and magnetic voice. After giving his instructions, he rushed inside and quickly rushed towards the Pil Yang sect where Fengjiu was. Tunyun relaxed slightly when he saw that the Yama Lord had gone to help. Just as he was about to rush forward, he suddenly heard a rooster crow. Cluck cluck cluck. Ha ha ha. It turned its head to look and saw a green-feathered chicken not far away digging the soil with its claws. It then nestled its body in the hole that it dug and tried to dig. The corner of its mouth twitched when it saw this. After shooting a glance at the green-feathered chicken, he leaped forward and rushed forward. At this time, in the sect, Fengjiu was fighting against several people alone. Even though she had taken the elixir to increase her strength, she was still powerless in the face of such strong opponents. Moreover, these people wanted to kill her. Every move was swift and fierce, and every step was filled with killing intent. The slightest carelessness would put her in danger. Originally, she still had some leeway. She thought that since she had no enmity with these people, there was no need to kill them. However, looking at the current situation, if she wanted to live, she had to kill them all. You forced me to do this. After dodging an attack, she quickly retreated. Her red robe and black hair fluttered in the wind. She held the emerald sword in her hand, and her spiritual aura surged. She urged the flames in her body to pour into the emerald sword in her hand. With a whoosh, flames suddenly sprang up. The emerald sword, which was originally suffused with a green glow, was now like an angry dragon. The powerful sword aura and the flames resonated with each other, and the whole sword became more than twice its original size under the contrast of the flames. Whirlwind attack. Chapter 15:15. Sword chi shot out along with the flames, forming a crescent arc as it slashed through the bodies of the surrounding cultivators at a speed that was too fast for the ears to cover. Whoosh! Hiss! The sharp sword energy struck out, slicing through the chests of the cultivators who could not dodge in time. As blood seeped out, their robes were also stained with flames. In an instant, they cried out in alarm as they tried to extinguish the flames on their bodies. Hiss! It's so hot! Hiss! It's on fire! It's on fire! Ah! How could my body? One of the cultivators cried out in alarm. His body, which was still in midair, suddenly fell down. He was so shocked that he screamed, "Quick, save me! The spiritual aura in my body has disappeared." The sect master and the others were watching from a distance. When they saw that their bodies were on fire, they panicked. Then, they saw a nascent soul cultivator lose his balance and fall down. Cultivators below, quickly catch him. The sect master shouted in a low voice. His brows were tightly knitted together as he looked at the red-robed woman who was standing in midair. His low voice was filled with pressure and anger. You used medicine. This woman actually dared to use medicine in front of so many people. She really treated them as if they were nothing. What's wrong with using medicine? Using medicine is better than bullying others with numbers. Fengjiu snorted coldly and twirled the long sword in her hand. She glanced at the great protective array and said, You want to trap me like this? You're too naive. I've already said that I didn't want to be your enemy. However, since you won't let me leave, then don't blame me for the deaths of the sect. As she spoke, she waved her hand and a handful of medicinal foam seemed to be blown away by the night wind, scattering it all over the ground. The corners of her lips curled into a demonic smile as her voice floated out, If you don't want to die, you'd better hide quickly. Otherwise, if you die, the sect master won't feel any heartache. When the people below heard this, they saw that the few nascent soul realm cultivators in mid-air had fallen from the sky, while the few fairy realm cultivators were still barely able to support themselves and retreat. When the disciples below saw this, they quickly retreated. There were also a few clever people who took antidote pills and tried to show off their skills. Unfortunately, it was all useless. How could the medicine that she had concocted be detoxified by ordinary people? Some of the weaker cultivators instantly lost all of their spirit force and were unable to summon any spirit force at all. Those with stronger cultivations were better off. The outbreak was slower and they could still suppress it. However, it was also because of this that they were slightly fearful. This woman was so difficult to deal with. Was she really going to give up her life for a medicinal pill? The sect master's face darkened when he saw the hesitation on the faces of the few fairy realm experts. He stared at Fengjiu, and in the next moment, he waved his hand and summoned his contract beast. Black Eagle. Come out. Screech. A long and clear whistle instantly pierced through the sky and reverberated in the night sky. Just as the sect leader's order fell, a black eagle that was sleeping on a mountain peak flapped its wings and soared into the sky and into the night sky. The huge black eagle circled in the air and screeched. Its voice contained the pressure of a sacred beast and sacred beast. Along with the voice, the sacred beast's pressure made all the disciples of the sect boil. Chapter 15-16. Sect Leader. Seeing this scene, Chen Dao was shocked. He wanted to kill Fengjiu. A sacred beast, Fengjiu, how could she possibly stop him? Don't cause trouble. If you continue to cause trouble, don't blame me for knocking you out. The elder held onto Chen Dao's hand and shouted, not allowing him to go forward and cause trouble. His gaze landed on the red figure and a complicated look flashed across his eyes. He really did not expect that strange young man to be a woman. Furthermore, she was no longer restraining her aura, no longer concealing her aura. She was actually so elegant and noble. This person, no matter how he looked at it, did not look like he was made to be a servant. Did he sneak in because of 3 Yangtze? Could it be that he had some enmity with 3 Yangtze? Black Eagle. Kill him. The sect leader ordered in a deep voice. He stretched out his hand and pointed towards Fengjiu, whose red robes were fluttering in the air. An eagle's cry rang out and the huge black eagle, which was flapping its wings and circling in the air, closed its wings and swooped down from the sky. Its sharp, hooked beak carried a powerful aura and murderous intent as it attacked Fengjiu, as if it was about to tear him apart. Seeing the black eagle swooping down, its powerful aura accompanied by its extremely fast speed brought about a frightening airflow. Seeing the bloodthirsty and cruel look in the eagle's eyes, Fengjiu squinted her eyes and raised her sword to meet it. Since they wanted to fight, then let's fight. She wanted to see how many of them could die under her green-edged sword. Mixed element slash. With a cold shout, the pressure of the ancient mythological beast and the sword chi of the green-tipped sword merged together. With a whistling sound, a terrifying sword chi burst forth. This sword chi that could be seen with the naked eye formed a huge sword blade. When she swooped down to meet the sacred beast, it also slashed down. Whoosh! Bang! Whoosh 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 whoosh. The huge sacred beast Black Eagle and Fengjiu fought in the air. Everyone could only see that in the pitch-black night, the red figure flashed past the Black Eagle like lightning. In the battle, the Black Eagle's feathers seemed to be cut off by the airflow and fell from the sky like petals of a flower. What was shocking was that Fengjiu could actually hold on against a sacred beast. She has the aura of an ancient sacred beast. She must have made a contract with an ancient sacred beast. An elder said as he stared at Fengjiu, "If we can kill her and take her ancient sacred beast as our mountain guardian beast, then our Danyang sect will become even stronger." Chen Dao's heart turned cold when he heard this, and he was unable to speak for a long time. A mere sacred beast dares to be impudent in front of me. Get down. A cold voice rang out from Fengjiu's mouth. She stepped on the Black Eagle's head and soared into the sky. She held her sword and rushed up, releasing the ancient sacred beast's aura. In an instant, there was a whoosh sound and a flame appeared around her. This flame formed the original form of the fire phoenix behind her. Like a flame, it soared into the sky and let out a phoenix cry. Almost at that instant, the Black Eagle's body trembled, and its entire body plummeted more than 10 meters. At that moment, Fengjiu raised the Qingfeng sword in her hand, aimed at the huge Black Eagle, and viciously slashed down. Die! No! Chapter 15-17. Screech. The shrill cry of an eagle pierced through the sky. The sharp sound was so loud that it hurt everyone's eardrums, as if it was going to pierce through their eardrums. Everyone could not help but cover their ears. Only the sect leader's eyes were bloodshot. His body trembled as he looked at the scene in disbelief. He felt as if his arm had been cut off. That was his contracted beast. A sacred beast. Just like that, it was killed right in front of him. Fengjiu. I won't forgive you. His hands were tightly clenched into fists. His eyes were bloodshot and his murderous intent was terrifying. Seeing his contracted beast fall from the sky to the ground, he felt the contract between him and his contracted beast being cut off. The feeling of being connected by blood and heart was as if someone was ruthlessly pulling at his heart. It was so painful that he could not breathe. Everyone else's mouths were wide open as they looked at the figure in red in disbelief. The visual impact was shocking to their hearts and minds, causing them to be in extreme shock and disbelief. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, how could they believe that this scene was real? A woman who had always been looked down upon by men like them, had actually single-handedly dealt with the strong cultivators of the Danyang sect. She had even killed several of them. In the end, she had even killed the sect leader's sacred beast eagle. This was just too unbelievable. Fengjiu did not want to waste time at this moment. After she had resolved the crisis around her, she tried to break the array and leave. However, she found that this great protective array seemed to be different from other arrays. When she got close, she could feel the protective spiritual energy flow. However, when she tried to pass through the array, she was blocked and bounced back. Fengjiu, I won't forgive you, I won't forgive you. Don't even think about leaving the Danyang sect. I will take your blood as a sacrifice to my Black Eagle. The sect leader's voice was filled with hatred and murderous intent. Fengjiu did not pay attention to him. She was thinking about how to break the Great Protective Array. This was a great array formed by the array and boundary. If she could not break it here, she would have to find a way to activate the array. However, Chen Dao only saw the sect leader take out 2 jade tablets and crush them. He then sent a message, "Sect Guardian Elder, please help me kill this madwoman who has offended our sect." Sect Guardian Elder. Sect Guardian Elder. Voices reverberated in the night. Tonight, the entire sect was in chaos. Even after many years, the people of Danyang's sect would never forget the shocking scene tonight. However, the strange thing was that when the sect master crushed the jade tablet to ask the sect protector elder to come out, there was no movement at all. In fact, there was not even a single word. This strange scene caused the few elders standing behind the sect master to look at each other in dismay, feeling somewhat stunned. It was as if something was wrong. However, at this moment, the great protective array that enveloped the entire sect suddenly closed with a boom. The great protective array that had formed a protective shield to prevent people from entering the sect dissipated at this moment. Chapter 15:18. When Fengjiu saw that the array had been closed, her heart trembled slightly. Just as she was about to leave, she saw a familiar figure walking towards her. When she saw the black figure, she was startled, somewhat surprised, and then relieved. It was Mose. He had come. She did not expect him to come here at this time. After all, she had only informed Ling Shuang and the others to provide support outside, but did not tell him what she was going to do. However, when she thought of the Yan Hall's forces scattered all over the place, she understood. As long as he wanted to know, even if she did not tell him, how could he not find out where she was? However, he had arrived at the perfect time. After all, he was the one who should have shut down the Great Sect Protection Formation. Seeing his arrival, her entire body relaxed. With him here, she believed that nothing would happen to her. However, compared to Fengjiu's relaxed body, Xianyuan Mose's deep black eyes were filled with a bloodthirsty coldness. He looked at the red figure floating in the air, looked at the wounds on her red clothes, looked at her black hair draped over her shoulders, looked at her entire body surging with spiritual aura and pressure that was several times higher than her cultivation level. He knew that she had been forced to take a pill that could raise her strength in a short period of time. She had that kind of pill, and the effects of this pill were extremely fast and powerful. It could raise the strength of the person who took it in a very short period of time. However, there was a time limit. Moreover, once the effects of the pill wore off, it would cause great damage to the body. In a few breaths, Xianyuan Mose arrived in front of Fengjiu and reached out to pull her into his arms. "How are you? Are you all right?" His deep voice could not conceal his cold aura. He looked pitifully at the exhausted Fengjiu in his arms and scolded, "Why didn't you tell me? Why did you need me to take care of everything yourself?" Hearing this, Fengjiu could not help but laugh. "Did I stay with you so that you can protect me? Don't worry. I won't die, just treat it as training. I haven't fought like this for a long time. Speaking of which, it's really quite tiring." She reached out to wrap her arms around his waist and pressed her face against his. Feeling the spiritual aura in her body gradually dissipating, she said, "The effects of the pill are about to wear off. The sect protection array is closed, let's go." However, Xianyuan Mose hugged her tightly and shifted his deep gaze from her face to the sect master of the Danyang sect in the distance. "The people of the Danyang sect injured you to this extent. How could I let them off so easily? Since they dared to touch his woman, how could he let them off? Forget it, let's go. The people I wanted to kill have been killed by me, and the people I wanted to save have also been saved by me. There's no need to care about the people here. In the end, she did not want Xianyuanmos to destroy the Pilyang sect. After all, she had lived here for a period of time and did not have much contact with the people here. However, there were still some people who took good care of her. She did not want to be too ruthless in everything. At this time, the sect leader of the Pilyang sect felt the black-robed man's cold and bloodthirsty eyes staring at him. A chill ran up from the bottom of his feet, causing him to involuntarily shiver. He felt fear and panic from the bottom of his heart. Chapter 15:19. When he thought about how the entire sect had been thrown into chaos because of the red-robed woman called Fengzhou, how flames had broken out everywhere, and how countless people had died, and how even his contracted beast, the Black Eagle, who was supposed to be the sect's supreme divine beast, had been killed in front of everyone, his heart was filled with resentment and hatred. How could he let her off so easily? If he really let the two of them go today, wouldn't their reputation as the #1 alchemy sect in the 8 great empires be tarnished? Behind them, Chen Dao watched as the sect's great array closed and the mysterious black-robed man flew through the air, protecting Fengzhou in his arms. Finally, he heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed like he was someone Fengzhou knew, and their relationship was not shallow. With him around, the sect leader would not be able to hurt Fengzhou again. This was good too, as he could finally relax. After all, he was facing a person who had saved his life, who had given him a new lease of life. Now, he was surrounded and attacked by everyone, but he could not step forward to help. He felt guilty and remorseful. The few fairy realm powerhouses who had retreated stared at the black-robed man's mask, unable to hide the shock and fear in their eyes. They could not help but retreat further, lowering their heads slightly as if they were trying to hide themselves. Yes, they recognized the man's identity. Wasn't that unique mask the mask of the Yama Lord of the Yama Palace? The red-robed woman was actually related to the Yama Lord of the Yama Palace. Moreover, the elusive Yama Lord had actually come here personally. It was clear that this woman held an extraordinary position in his heart. At this moment, they could not help but secretly rejoice that they had stopped in time. Otherwise, not only would they have died here, but their families and those who were related to them would also have been implicated. Sect Guardian Elder. The thunderous voice rang out again. The sect leader was unwilling to let them leave just like that, so he called out to the main mountain again. However, there was no response, as if a stone had sunk into the sea. Sect Guardian Elder, pleased that he shouted again, unwilling to give up. However, before he could finish his sentence, he was sent flying by a palm strike. The powerful wind from the palm strike was infused into the palm strike, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. His entire body instantly fell from midair. Sect Master. Everyone cried out in alarm as they looked at the two people who had appeared a few meters in front of them. They couldn't help but take a few steps back as their eyes were filled with shock. It was too fast. That speed was too fast. In the blink of an eye, he arrived here and attacked the sect master. No one could block or dodge that kind of speed. Looking at the man's overwhelming killing intent, their hearts were instantly in their mouths. After taking such a blow, could the sovereign still survive? However, just as they watched the sect master fall, his figure was caught by a spiritual aura and pulled in front of the man and woman. When they saw that the masked man in black robes was able to use his spiritual aura to control people, everyone was shocked. Xianyuanmos held Fengzhou in one hand and used his other hand to gather his spiritual aura and lift the sect master a few meters in front of him. He stared at the sect master as a murderous intent flashed across his deep black eyes. At this moment, a voice rang out from the sky and echoed in the night. Chapter 15:20. Hearing this voice, the Danyang sect's elders and peak masters' expressions changed. A complicated look appeared in their eyes. That voice belonged to one of the sect protector elders. It turned out that the guardian elder had been there all along. But why didn't he show himself? Fengzhou's eyes flickered. She glanced at the sect master and said to Xianyuan, "Spare his life. Let's go." It was not that she had softened, but if the sect master of the number 1 alchemy sect of the 8 great empires died tonight, it would be very troublesome. Moreover, people could not easily decide the life and death of others just because they were stronger than others. That kind of killing was blind and bloodthirsty. It could only show a person's cruelty and cold-bloodedness. Although she was cold-blooded, she was never cruel. She did not want to become such a person. Xianyuan lowered his head to look at her in his arms. Then, with a wave of his hand, he flung the sect master away. Then, he left with Fengzhou through the main entrance. Watching the two figures leave in front of their eyes, everyone had an indescribable feeling in their hearts. The reason why the Danyang sect was in such a mess and suffered such a heavy loss was because of the death of 3 Yangtze. Was it really worth it to sacrifice so much for someone who was already dead? Luo Heng and Chen Dao watched as Fengzhou was taken away. Only then did they feel relieved. As long as she was fine, however, she was fine, but the sect was in big trouble. On the other side, Fengzhou leaned in Xianyuan's arms. She narrowed her eyes and asked, "Where's my mother? Did Ling Shuang and the others encounter Tun Yun?" "Yes, I met Tun Yun when I came in. I told it to go to Ling Shuang and the others. Don't worry, they should have already rushed back." As Xianyuan spoke, he brought her down the mountain. At the same time, he used his sleeve to cover her face so that the wind blade would not cut her. Fengzhou leaned on the bed in relief. His head was a little heavy and he asked drowsily, "Why are you here? You left for a few months. I wanted to come and see you, but I didn't expect to see you injured like this. You really make people worry. Why didn't you tell me?" His voice was low and reproachful, but when he saw her like this, he swallowed the words of reproach that were about to come out of his mouth. Fengzhou smiled and said, "I didn't want to cause such a big commotion. Things have gone beyond my expectations. I didn't expect the sect protecting array to be so difficult to break." Cough cough. Seeing her face getting paler and paler, Xianyuan frowned. "Do you have other injuries on your body? Why is your face getting uglier and uglier?" He stopped in the forest and asked. "My shoulder was pierced by a sword. Even though the bleeding has stopped, but..." Before he could finish his words, he was interrupted. "Damn it!" Xianyuan cursed and hurriedly put her down. With one hand, he tore off her outer clothes. "Why didn't you tell me that your shoulder was injured? What if something happened if you dragged it back?" When he tore off her red outer clothes, revealing her blood-stained inner clothes, his eyes narrowed. The large amount of blood stung his eyes and his hands trembled slightly. Why is there so much blood? Chapter 15:21. Seeing that she had fainted, his heart skipped a beat. Trembling, he reached out to check if she was still breathing. Only when he felt that she was still breathing did he feel relieved. He quickly took out some medicine for external injuries and sprinkled it on her wounds. Then, he stuffed a pill into her mouth before quickly taking her away. 2 days later, cluck cluck cluck. Early in the morning, a rooster's cry broke the tranquility of the morning. The clear cry echoed in the small courtyard, as if telling everyone that the sun had risen and that it was time to get up. All they saw was a round green chicken standing on the stone table in the courtyard. It raised its head and stretched its neck as it crowed. At the front of the courtyard, Tun Yun lay there and glanced at it. Then, it covered its ears with its paws and continued to sleep. Only the heavens knew how this green chicken had followed them back. It clearly did not see it following them back then. But yesterday morning, it had appeared from the courtyard and crowed here early in the morning. It was so noisy that it could not sleep. In the room, Fingzhou, who had been unconscious for 2 days, heard the roosters cry and slowly opened her eyes. She felt an arm around her waist. She calmed herself down and turned her head slightly. A resolute and handsome face entered her eyes. However, it was slightly haggard because his beard had not been shaved and had grown out. Looking at him, she remembered what happened that night. She also thought of her mother. How was her mother now? At that thought, she shifted her body slightly, intending to move the large hand around her waist away. Just as she was about to get out of bed, the large hand around her waist withdrew. At the same time, Xianyuan Mose, who was originally sound asleep, woke up because of this. Awake? Are you feeling better? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Xianyuan Mose hurriedly asked when he saw that she had woken up. Only the heavens knew how angry he was when he saw the wounds on her body when he applied the medicine. Although those wounds were not light, the scars left on her snow-white and flawless body were extremely glaring. She lazily responded. Her hands pulled on his clothes and she rubbed against his chest like a kitten. How long have I been asleep? 2 days. He gently stroked her black hair and asked, Are you hungry? I'll get someone to send some food over. 2 days. She hurriedly sat up in his arms and reached out to press on it. Feeling that the wound on her shoulder did not hurt anymore, she lifted her clothes slightly to take a look. Unexpectedly, the man lying beside her was staring at her slightly lifted body with a burning gaze. The corners of her mouth twitched as she closed her clothes and asked, Did you help me apply the medicine? He replied. He stared at her and asked with a smile, Is your wound better? I haven't seen it today. Why don't you take off your clothes and let me see? No need, I'm almost done. She got off the bed and took out another set of clothes from her space. Are you going to see your mother? He also got up and got dressed as he asked her. That's right. That 3 Yangzi really isn't a good person. He used a whip soaked in medicine to beat my mother like that. Moreover, the medicine in her body hasn't been removed yet. I've slept for 2 days. I don't know how she is now. Her body recovered relatively quickly. Other than her physique, it was also related to the Green Lotus. However, her mother was different. She didn't know how her mother was doing with such a serious injury. Chapter 15:22. Hearing this, Fingzhou's heart sank. After washing her face and rinsing her mouth, she walked out of the room. Accompanied by Xianyuan Mose, she went to her mother's courtyard. Master, you're awake. Are you feeling better? Ling Shuang and the others saw her come out with the Yama Lord and hurried to her side. I'm feeling better. How is my mother? Did she wake up today? She looked at Ling Shuang and asked. No, Madam has been unconscious since she came back. However, the whip wounds on her body have almost recovered after applying medicine. It's just that her body. Ling Shuang's voice paused and he didn't continue. Fengzhou nodded. I'll go in and take a look. The others stayed outside. Only Xianyuan Mose went in with her. When she came to the inner room and saw Shengwan Wanrong lying on the bed, she went forward and called out, Mother. She went forward and felt her pulse. After this, she couldn't help but frown. Sure enough, the medicine that was originally sealed had already spread to all parts of her body. That 3 Yangzi originally wanted to use her as a human furnace to refine pills. Now it was like this. Xianyuan Mose stood to the side and watched. Seeing her frown, he knew that this matter wouldn't be so easy to solve. Thus, he said, I know that your mother has been poisoned with a lot of medicine. Don't worry. As long as there's no danger, it's fine. One by one, the medicine will be cured. I know. She sighed and stood up. Looking at her unconscious mother, she said, I didn't think that she would be injured like this. I thought I could save her in one piece, but thought she was too confident. She was too eager. She shouldn't have gambled with her mother's safety. No, you've already done very well. There are no absolutes in this world. How can you know what will happen? What will come will come. You can't avoid it. Perhaps, this is just your mother's tribulation. He comforted her slowly. He didn't want her to blame herself too much because this matter wasn't her fault. He looked at the unconscious Shang Wanrong on the bed and said to Fingzhou, let's go out and talk. And she made a sound of agreement and helped her mother pull up the quilt. Only then did she walk out with him and sit down in the courtyard. Master, have something to eat. You haven't eaten for 2 days. Ling Hua took advantage of this time to place the cooked porridge on the table in the courtyard. Everyone else had retreated, leaving only him here to wait. Eat first. Xianyuan Mose poured her a bowl of porridge and said, You've been unconscious for 2 days, so you don't know. The news has already spread. The Danyang sect has suffered heavy losses because of you. Don't even think about regaining your former prestige in a short period of time. Feng Zhou took a spoonful of porridge and ate it. She seemed to have thought of something and asked curiously, why was the sect protecting formation turned off? How did you know it was there? And the voice that spoke later, who was it? Because of the cold poison in my body, I went to the Danyang sect more than once. Of course, I know where their Danyang sect's protective array is. Moreover, the guardian elder inside also knows me. If that guardian elder hadn't helped me before, I would have destroyed the people of the Danyang sect for daring to hurt you like this. Chapter 1523. Hearing his words, Fengzhou nodded. So it was because she had been to the Danyang sect before. Well, he was originally a member of the Xianyuan dynasty, one of the 8 great empires. When he was poisoned, he would definitely go to the Danyang sect to find a cure. After eating a bowl of porridge, she smiled and said, although I was injured, they didn't gain any benefits. The Danyang sect lost more than I did. That sect master took a hit from you, so even if he didn't die, he would still be half dead. Let's just forget about it, there's no need to keep remembering it. She paused, then asked, oh right, did you come alone this time? Why didn't Hui Lang and Ying Yi come with you? I told them to go to the Yen Palace to deal with some matters. They should arrive in a few days. Xianyuan Mo said, then scooped another bowl of porridge for her, eat more. Your body is still weak. Feng Zhou took it and continued to eat. Not long after, she stopped and looked at him, saying, I want to refine a detoxification pill for my mother. But, in addition to the guiding herb I brought out from 3 Yangtze's Immortal's cave, I need 2 more ingredients. I want you to help me find them. What 2 herbs? Tell me. The icy heart white jade lotus and the exquisite rainbow flower. She said the names of the 2 herbs, then said, and they have to be at least 300 years old, otherwise they can't be used as medicine. Xianyuan Mo's thought for a while, then said, the 2 herbs you mentioned are extremely rare antidotes. Even my Xianyuan dynasty doesn't have these 2 herbs. There is an exquisite rainbow flower in the Yen Palace, but it's not even 300 years old. I have to ask my subordinates to ask around and see if anyone else has these 2 herbs. As soon as he finished speaking, he thought for a while, then asked, without these 2 herbs, the poison in your mother's body can't be cured? Then before we find these 2 spiritual herbs, nothing will happen to her. I can suppress the poison in her body so that it won't take her life. 3 Yangtze originally wanted to refine her as a human furnace. Those aren't poisons, but extremely precious spiritual medicines. However, if her body can't take it, the few medicines will reject each other and gradually form poison. Moreover, it will be a highly toxic poison. I can suppress it, and I can also use bloodletting to expel the poison from her body. However, the medicine has penetrated deep into her bones, skin, and flesh. Those two spiritual herbs are extremely precious. Even if you want to use them as medicine, you don't need a whole stalk. Just a single petal will do. If you can't find a whole stalk, then just try to get a few petals. Hearing this, he nodded and said slowly, "Don't worry. Leave this matter to me. I'll get someone to quickly find out the information. No matter how precious the spirit medicine is, there must be someone who has it. I'll help her get rid of some of the poison first. As for the remaining poison in her bone marrow, skin and flesh, we'll have to wait until we gather all the spirit herbs." For the next 2 days, Fengjiu gave his mother some medicine to expel the poison. She chose to use the skin pores in her body to expel the poison. Because of this, as layers of black liquid seeped out of her body, her condition gradually improved. After being unconscious for a few days, Shangwan Wanrong finally woke up. The moment she opened her eyes and saw the figure sitting by the bed, she couldn't help but reach out to hold his hand tightly and ask anxiously, "Xiao Zhou, how are you? Are you hurt anywhere?" Chapter 15:24. It's good that you're fine. Her hanging heart relaxed. Only now did she see that her appearance in front of her was more exquisite and outstanding than when she was in the sect. Moreover, she was wearing a red robe, which was very dazzling. She couldn't help but smile. "You look really good like this." Hearing this, she said with a smile, "You look like Mother Ah. Of course you look good. You child." Shangwan Wanrong shook her head and laughed. She was even praising her. Seeming to think of something, she composed herself and asked, "Xiao Zhou, when I came out at that time, I seemed to have met someone wearing black clothes. Was that person also one of your people?" Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled and narrowed her eyes. "Mother, wait a moment." She put on a coat for her, then helped her sit up and lean against the head of the bed. Afterwards, she ran outside and brought Xianyuan Mose in not long after. "Mother, are you talking about this person?" She pushed Xianyuan Mose forward and asked. His body was stiff and somewhat uncomfortable. Shangwan Wanrong looked carefully. When her gaze fell on Xianyuan Mose's resolute and handsome face, she was somewhat uncertain. At that time, he was wearing a mask. "I didn't know if it was him or not." "Mother, it's him, it's him. His name is Xianyuan Mose. He's my man." Fengjiu was like a cunning little fox as she smiled and narrowed her eyes while patting Xianyuan Mose's shoulder. Hearing her daughter's words and seeing her act intimately with this man, Shangwan Wanrong coughed lightly and said, "Xiao Zhou, girls shouldn't speak carelessly." What did she mean by her man? This child was really messing around. She was still a virgin and yet she said this. It seemed that when she wasn't by her side, Feng Xiao, as her father, didn't take good care of her. Letting this child speak carelessly, she wasn't afraid of ruining her reputation. Xianyuan Mose was originally a bit uncomfortable. Because of this, his body was a bit stiff. He had seen his father-in-law and was familiar with him, but this was the first time he had seen his mother-in-law. Because of this, he was a bit nervous, afraid that he would leave a bad impression. However, when he heard Fengjiu introduce him to her mother, she said that he was her man. This made his heart burst with joy. He immediately went forward and cupped his hands in greeting. "Aunt Rong, I am Xianyuan Mose. Xiao Zhou and I have known each other for many years and I have already gone to the Feng Manor to see Uncle Xiao and Grandfather Xiao Zhou and I have known each other for many years." Speaking of this, the expression on his face could not help but soften a little. Yes, as soon as she returned home and their family was reunited, he would be able to propose marriage. Then, he would marry Fengjiu. That way, he would be able to see her every day when he woke up. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but look forward to it. When Shengwan Wanrong heard this, she was startled then relaxed, so it's like that. She glanced at Fengjiu, who was smiling to the side, and said with a smile, "Child, why didn't you finish your sentence? So you've seen your father and grandfather. Naturally, you're not ordinary. Treat them like family." "Yes, yes." Fengjiu gently laughed and held Xianyuan Mo's hand, winking at him. Xianyuan Mo was happy to hear this and said, "I had someone make some congee. I'll go ask if it's ready. Xiao Zhou, stay with Aunt Rong and chat." "Okay, you can go." Chapter 1525. My daughter's taste is naturally good. Shengwan Wanrong revealed a gentle smile and patted her daughter's face lovingly. "Of course." She raised her delicate chin a little proudly. "Then tell mother, how did you two meet?" "He's met your father and grandfather, but have you met his family?" Shengwan Wanrong asked as she leaned against the bed. Thus, mother and daughter chatted on the bed until there was a knock on the door and Lang Shuang came in with porridge. "Mother, I've helped you expel the medicine in your body these past 2 days. However, if you want to get rid of some of the medicinal properties that have seeped into your bone marrow, you still need 2 herbs. I was thinking that you should recuperate here during this period of time. When I find those 2 herbs, I can help you refine the medicinal pills. Can it be removed?" she asked worriedly. "Yes, don't worry. Eat a bowl of porridge first, then rest well. I'll be going out for a while." She motioned for Lang Shuang to take care of her and walked out. Lang Shuang scooped a bowl of porridge and brought it forward. "Madam, this porridge was cooked according to master's orders. He added some medicine to nourish the body." "Okay," Shengwan Wanrong replied. Then, she started to eat. Outside, Fengjiu didn't see Xianyuan Mo and asked Lang Hua, who was in the courtyard, "Where is he? Where did he go? Why don't I see him? Did master say ya my lord?" Lang Hua asked with a warm smile. "Yes." Fengjiu nodded in response. Just now, a person from Yandian came over and said that he had something to report. Yama Lord followed him over. He should be in the front courtyard. When he heard this, Fengjiu paused for a moment, then walked outside. When he arrived at the front yard, he happened to see Xianyuan Mo turn around and walk back. He walked up and asked, "What's wrong?" "Recently, a mysterious force has been targeting Yandian. It seems like they want to force me to show up. I'm afraid Hui Lang and the others won't be able to handle it. I'm going to go over and see what's going on," Xianyuan Mo said as he walked in the courtyard with her in his arms. "Don't worry. I've already sent people to inquire about the 2 medicines you lack. Once they're found, they'll send them to you. Now that you've found your mother, do you plan to stay here? Or return to the Phoenix Dynasty first? If you want to go back, I can get someone to give you a lift." Hearing that, Fengjiu said, "I want to go back after I find the medicine. Otherwise, it'll be troublesome to travel such a long way." "That's fine too. As long as you don't cause any trouble in this city, you won't be noticed by other forces. You can stay here for now. If you don't like it here, you can go to the Crown Prince's palace. Don't worry. I'll take care of myself and my mother. Moreover, I have Lang Hua and Du Fan with me. Nothing will happen. Don't worry," she said nonchalantly. She felt that it was fine for her to stay outside. There was no need for her to enter his sphere of influence. "All right then. I'll go over tomorrow. Today, I'll stay here with you. We haven't seen each other for a few months, and this time, we've only been together for a few days. We'll spend more time apart than together. Once we've gathered all the medicine and you've refined the pills, I'll go back and prepare. I'll bring over 100 boxes of betrothal gifts to your house and marry you as soon as possible. Chapter 15:26. Hearing this, Xianyuan Mo's gaze swept over her body. How is it small? I think it's quite big, quite suitable. After saying that, the corners of his mouth curled up. Fengjiu rolled her eyes. You always have an icy cold face, as if you don't want anyone to get close to you. Why is it different in front of me compared to in front of outsiders? People who don't know you would think that you're someone in disguise. Of course it's different in front of outsiders compared to in front of you. Just like how I will sleep on the same bed as you, but I won't sleep on the same bed as others. Hearing this, she couldn't help but laugh. What kind of twisted logic is this? It's a mess. Alright, since you're going to Yandian tomorrow, then I'll accompany you today. Originally, I was thinking of going to the black market to take a look. After being here for so long, I haven't paid a visit to the black market. To be honest, I'm quite curious what kind of person the black market's president is. The black market's president. Xianyuan Mo's voice paused, and he pondered for a moment, then said, I only know that the people in the black market address him respectfully as the Supreme Lord. I've asked Yan Dian to investigate him before, but there's almost no information about this person. He's so mysterious that no one knows where he came from. However, there are rumors that he's related to the large sects in the upper reaches, and the power behind him is very strong. Even the 8 great empires' royal family doesn't dare to touch him. What upper reaches? Fengjiu was stunned for a moment, and asked suspiciously. Hearing her question, Xianyuan Mo's was also stunned. You don't know? You've been here for a while, don't tell me you don't know that the 8 great empires wherein belong to the eastern lower reaches. Fengjiu blinked and shook her head. I only know that the 8 great empires each occupy an area. Didn't they say that the 8 great empires occupy different areas? Why do they only belong to the eastern lower reaches? She had been here for a while, but she didn't know much about this place. She only knew that there were 8 powerful empires in this place. As for the others, she didn't see them on the map of the 8 great empires. Seeing her silly look, Xianyuan Mo shook his head and couldn't help but laugh. I always thought that you knew the distribution of this continent. I didn't think that you only knew the distribution of the place you were at. Well, whatever. You won't go to those places anyway, so it doesn't matter if you don't know. Hearing this, she was unhappy. What do you mean it doesn't matter? How do you know that I won't go? Maybe one day, I'll go look around. Hearing this, he looked at her deeply and was silent for a while. Then, he brought her to the stone table in the pavilion and took out a large map that was more than a meter wide from his space. He pointed at a small area at the bottom of one of the continents and said, Do you see this place? This is where the Phoenix Empire is located. Just like this area, we have classified it as the lower realm, because this is the place that is subordinate to the 8 great empires. And here, this area is distributed among the 8 great empires. This area belongs to the eastern regions, from here to here. Chapter 15:27. But why aren't these places written here? This map of yours isn't complete either. She pointed at some places on the map. Only those places were marked, but the others were completely blank. There wasn't even the slightest bit of information. That's because none of us from the Lower Eastern Empire have ever walked out of this region. As Xianyuan Mo spoke, he pointed at the entire endless forest, as well as some places separated by the sea. He said, Do you see here? Other than being blocked by the endless forest, there are even spirit formations. It is absolutely not a place that ordinary people can casually pass through. Because no one has any understanding of that region is called the Mysterious Land. However, I've heard that Elder Tianji's master is in this mysterious land. Back then, the master who taught me and imparted me the cultivation method also came from this mysterious land. Elder Tianji and your master. She blinked, her hands holding her chin. How come I've never heard you mention your master before? Because he taught me in secret. He didn't want me to speak of his name. Even Hui Lang and the others who have always been by my side since childhood didn't know of his existence. Oh, so it's like that. She nodded and didn't ask any more questions. Instead, she thought of another matter. In the past, Mo Chen once said a few words. I've never paid much attention to them, but now that I think about it, I feel like there's a great mystery behind those words. When the star of the phoenix appears, a foreign soul enters the world. She came from beyond the heavens, broke the 8 extremes of the heavenly way, and became the ruler of the world. Xianyuan Mose looked at her and said this. Emin, it's those words. This break the 8 extremes of the heavenly way, I've never understood what it meant. What break the 8 extremes of the heavenly way? What are the 8 extremes of the heavenly way? And also, become the ruler of the world. Actually, I'm very lazy. I don't have the heart to fight for some ruler of the world, so I've always felt that these words were nonsense. She held her chin, frowning as she spoke. Hearing this, Xianyuan Mose's eyes moved slightly. He looked deeply at her and asked, came from beyond the heavens, a foreign soul enters the world. What do these words mean? Do you know? These words had spread far and wide. The people of the 8 empires were also looking for this woman known as the Phoenix Star. However, the others still didn't know that this Phoenix Star was Fingzhou. However, these 2 sentences had always puzzled him. Why did he come from beyond the heavens? Deviant souls entering the world. Could it be that one day in the future, she would be possessed by a soul from beyond the heavens? If these 2 sentences were not interpreted this way, then what would they mean? It had to be said that this was a worry that was hidden deep in his heart. The words that came from the mouth of the Elder of Heavenly Secrets were definitely not without reason. Since he had said so, he must have his reasons. Seeing his deep eyes staring at her, as if he wanted to see through her soul from her eyes, Fingzhou's eyes moved slightly, revealing a trace of a smile as he said, the meaning of these 2 sentences is very easy to understand. Naturally, they're saying that I'm a foreign soul from beyond the heavens. Xianyuan Mose looked deeply at her. After hearing her words, his tense heart relaxed. He reached out and grasped her hand, his low and magnetic voice saying, yes, no matter where you come from, it's fine as long as you are you. Chapter 1528. That day, the 2 of them spent some time together. After not seeing each other for a long time, the 2 of them seemed to have endless things to talk about. They both told each other about the things that had happened in the past few months, and talked about how much they missed each other. From knowing each other, to falling in love, the relationship between the 2 of them was very natural. From the beginning when she teased him, to his confession of his feelings, to Fingzhou's blunt rejection, to the 10-year promise between the 2 of them. Although not 10 years had passed, a few years had passed, and they didn't know when it started, but they both started to hold each other's figure in their hearts. Everything was so natural, without any reason. The next morning. No need to send me off, I'll come back to find you when I'm done. Xianyuan Mose said to Fingzhou, who was sending him out of the outer courtyard. Fingzhou nodded, and, be careful. I'll wait here for you to come back. Xianyuan Mose hugged her and planted a kiss on her forehead. Take care of yourself, don't always make me worry. Hearing this, Fingzhou grinned and laughed, look at what you're saying, it's like I'm a troublemaker. After saying this, she couldn't help but chuckle. She rolled her eyes and smiled, but speaking of which, it seems like I really am a troublemaker. Everywhere I go, it's not safe. It's fine, I'll take care of the trouble you cause. Just take care of yourself and don't always get hurt. He held her hand as he spoke, his deep eyes filled with reluctance as he looked at her. They had only known each other for a few days, and now he had to deal with Yen Diane's matter. This matter really came at the wrong time. Seeing his reluctance, she smiled and narrowed her eyes, saying, all right, you can go. Go early and come back early. In the end, under her repeated urging, Xian Yuanmo's finally turned and left. After he left, Fengjiu returned to the courtyard. After eating breakfast with her mother, she left Lang Shuang behind to take care of her mother. She changed back into men's clothing and left with Du Fan. It was rare to have the opportunity to go out with his master, and Du Fan couldn't hide the joy in his eyes. On the way, he followed Fengjiu in an orderly manner to protect her. When he saw her walk to the other side of the street, Du Fan was stunned and asked, Master, aren't you going to the black market? The black market is on this street. Isn't Lang Hua in the shop? I'll take a look. As she spoke, she walked in the direction of the shop. It was a shop they had set up in this corner. Usually, if it wasn't Lang Hua, it was Du Fan. In addition, there was also a clerk they had hired in the shop. Hearing that she was going to the shop, Du Fan didn't ask any more questions and quietly followed. When they arrived in front of the shop and saw Lang Hua doing business inside, Fengjiu smiled and walked in. Seeing Fengjiu come in, Lang Hua smiled and asked the clerk to serve the customers. He invited Fengjiu to the back hall and asked, Master, why are you here? Is something the matter? I was planning to go to the black market, so I came to take a look. She sat down at the table and asked, Is everything okay here? Lang Hua smiled warmly, It's been normal. We're only selling some ordinary medicinal herbs. Only the old customers will take out the real good things to show them. Chapter 1529. Just as he was speaking, the waiter's voice came from outside. Manager Lang. Hearing the voice coming from outside, Lang Hua said to Fengjiu, Master, I'll go out and take a look. After Fengjiu nodded, he turned around and walked outside. Manager, a guest outside handed this over and said he wants to see you. The waiter handed over a 2-finger-wide black wooden tablet. Lang Hua took it and looked at it, then walked outside. Under the waiter's guidance, he saw a middle-aged man looking at medicinal herbs in the shop, as well as 2 attendants following behind him. After waving the waiter away, Lang Hua stepped forward, cupped his hands, and said with a smile, My surname is Lang, and I'm the manager here. How should I address this guest? The middle-aged man sized up Lang Hua without leaving a trace. Seeing that the young man in front of him had a gentle aura and was only in the foundation establishment realm, he was secretly surprised. He didn't expect this person to be so young, and his strength was only in the foundation establishment realm. With such strength, how could the master behind him be at ease to let him handle the medicinal pill business? However, he didn't look down on the person in front of him because of this. Instead, after glancing at the black wooden tablet in his hand that he handed over earlier, he smiled. My surname is Ni. Lang Hua nodded and made an inviting gesture. Master Ni, this way please. He invited him to a place at the back of the shop, where there was a table and 2 chairs that were usually for guests to sit down. After sitting down, the middle-aged man saw that there were no other guests in the shop, so he directly said, Manager Lang, I want a bottle of rank for spirit-gathering liquid. Lang Hua's expression didn't change, and he only asked gently, Do you know the price, Master Ni? I do. 1 million gold coins per bottle. As the middle-aged man spoke, he motioned to a person beside him. That person stepped forward and took out a chinquan bag and placed it on the table. There are 1 million gold coins in here. May I know when I can get the rank 4 spirit gathering liquid? He stared at Leng Hua. Tier 4 spirit gathering liquid was extremely rare even in auction houses outside. But here, it could actually really be bought. This news had already spread below, but unfortunately, if one wanted to buy spirit liquids or pills, they still needed the black wooden token that was issued here. Otherwise, no matter how high the price was, they would not be able to buy what they wanted here. He came with the mentality of giving it a try. He did not expect that this youth's actions were so calm. From the looks of it, there really was a grade 4 spirit gathering fluid. Leng Hua took the chinquan bag and placed his hand on it to scan it with his divine sense. He smiled and said to the middle-aged man with the surname Ni, "You can get it now." Then, he took out a bottle of spirit gathering liquid from the chinquan bag at his waist and put it on the table. At the same time, he put away the chinquan bag with the gold coins. The man with the surname Ni was stunned. He looked at the bottle of medicinal liquid in front of him, picked it up to take a closer look, opened it, and sniffed it. His eyes could not help but light up. It really is a rank 4 spirit gathering liquid, and it's a top grade one. He looked at Leng Hua and could not hide his excitement as he asked, "It said that there are all kinds of medicinal pills here." Leng Hua smiled gently. "Master Ni, 1 black wooden token can only buy 1 bottle. In other words, even if there was, he couldn't buy it." Chapter 1530. This bottle of medicine was worth 1 million, but the price of this blackwood token wasn't low either. Otherwise, many people wouldn't have raised the price of this blackwood token in private. He had spent a lot of effort to obtain this blackwood token. The blackwood token looked simple, but it couldn't be imitated by others. Every blackwood token had the 2 words, "Ghost Doctor," on it, as well as a unique symbol. Only by obtaining the Ghost Doctor's blackwood token could one buy medicine. Now, he had obtained a bottle of medicine. Rank 4 spirit gathering liquid, and it was of such purity that it definitely couldn't be seen outside. Thus, he hoped to buy another bottle of medicinal pills, but that "I'm very sorry, Master Ni." Leng Hua stood up apologetically. "The blackwood token has a time and date for the auction, and it will only be auctioned in the black market. Forgive me for not being able to help." His voice paused slightly, and he bowed. "I'm sorry, I still have matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first." Hearing this, Master Ni stood up. "All right. Since it's like this, I won't force you. However, I have something I want to ask. I wonder if Steward Leng can reveal a thing or two." Leng Hua smiled gently. "If you want to ask about my master's matters, Master Ni doesn't have to speak. I'm just following orders. Without my master's permission, I can't reveal anything. Please." He gestured for him to leave, preparing to send him off. Master Ni was startled for a moment, then he smiled and nodded. "All right. I believe that I'll definitely have a chance to meet your master in the future." As he spoke, he left with his people. After they left, Leng Hua turned around and went to the back. He arrived in front of Fingzhou and told her about the matter. "Master, we've collected a lot of the blackwood tokens we sent out. Those people all wanted to inquire about Master when buying medicine, but they were well behaved and didn't cause any trouble." "That's right. It's the rule we set. Those who cause trouble will be blacklisted. Even if they have the blackwood token, they can't buy our medicinal pills. Naturally, they won't dare to act recklessly." She stood up, patted her clothes, and said, "All right, let's go to the black market. Later, let me know if you're lacking any medicine." "Yes," Leng Hua replied and walked her out. After watching her and Du Fan leave, he returned to the shop. In the beginning, they only sold some medicinal herbs. Later on, they quietly changed. Although it looked like an ordinary medicine shop, there was a story behind it. It could be said that these days, they had gained a firm foothold here. All the forces had to give them some face. Master's reputation as the ghost doctor wasn't well known in the 8 great empires. After all, no matter how great her reputation was, it couldn't have crossed so many places to reach this place. Especially since Master's medicinal pills and elixirs weren't sold in this place. Naturally, the various powers here didn't know of the ghost doctor's name, nor did they know of her background. However, after this period of business, Master's reputation as the ghost doctor had gradually become known by some powers. With the influence of the black market here, they didn't have to worry about any major problems. After all, the various powers of the black market had to give them face and didn't dare to rashly make an enemy out of them. On the other side, Fengjiu led Du Fan out of the medicine shop. After walking down a street, Du Fan, who was beside them, lowered his voice and said, "Master, someone's following us." Chapter 1531. Seeing that his master didn't say anything, Du Fan quietly followed, pretending that he didn't know that someone was following him. Behind them, Master Ni and the 2 people beside him from the medicine shop walked out from the corner of the street. Master Ni, who was in the lead, looked at the dazzling red figure in front of him, and thought to himself. He had ordered people to find out about the ghost doctor, but the news hadn't come back yet. As for that red-clothed youth, he, who had left the medicine shop, couldn't help but secretly follow him. That evildoer red-clothed youth had come from the medicine shop, and the person beside him was another steward of the medicine shop, surnamed Du, to be able to make Steward Du follow him, and make Steward Ling treat him courteously. Who could this red-clothed youth be? Could it be that he was related to the ghost doctor? At that moment, he only guessed that perhaps this red-clothed youth was the ghost doctor's disciple, and didn't think that this red-clothed youth was the ghost doctor. After all, this red-clothed youth was too young, and for the ghost doctor to be able to refine that kind of medicine, even if he wasn't an old man, he shouldn't be just a youth. They followed along, watching the youth walk leisurely, occasionally looking at the miscellaneous items on the street stalls, no different from a noble young master who had snuck out to play. Until they saw the red-clothed youth bring Du Fan into the black market's entrance, they stopped in their tracks, and a trace of astonishment flashed across their eyes. They had actually entered the black market. "Master, should we still follow?" the man beside him asked. Master Ni was deep in thought, and after a while, he said, "Forget it, it shouldn't be the ghost doctor herself. No need to follow, in case they find out and annoy us. Let's go." With that, he left with the 2 people. He felt that he would have the chance to see the ghost doctor herself sooner or later, and this little bit of time wouldn't make much of a difference. At the same time, in the black market, Fengjiu was invited inside to receive her after flashing her black token, while Du Fan stood respectfully behind her. Not long after, a middle-aged man walked in with a smile on his face. "I didn't know it was the ghost doctor. Forgive me for not coming out to meet you, forgive me for not coming out to meet you." He cupped his hands in greeting while sizing up Fengjiu. Although they had been working with the ghost doctor for a long time and the people of the black market knew of her name, this was the first time they had seen her. The ghost doctor was dressed in a dazzling red robe, dressed as a man. Her face was handsome and outstanding, and her entire body was emitting a devilish and wanton aura. Her expression was languid and her actions were calm. If he didn't know that she was a girl, he really wouldn't be able to tell. Because on her body, there wasn't the slightest bit of shyness that a woman should have. What she had was a magnanimous calmness that didn't lose to a man's. Truly, seeing once is better than hearing 100 times. The ghost doctor's elegant demeanor really makes one's eyes light up. He walked forward with a smile and introduced himself. My surname is Xiao and my courtesy name is Guangwen. I'm the manager of the black market. As he spoke, he came to the main seat and sat down, asking, I wonder what the ghost doctor is here for. So it's Manager Xiao. Nice to meet you. Fengjiu cupped her hands in greeting, then said, I've been here for a while, but I've been busy with some personal matters and haven't had the time to pay a visit to the owner of the black market. Therefore, I've specially come today. Chapter 1532. Oh. He's not here. Then when will he be back? She inquired. She felt that since he was here, she should meet the owner of the black market if she had the chance. He's on a long journey, and our master's whereabouts have always been unpredictable. It's hard to say when he'll be back. Manager Xiao smiled and continued, but you don't have to worry, Ghost Doctor. As long as my master returns, I'll definitely report your visit to the higher-ups. Looks like I've come at the wrong time. Fine, since he's not here, I'll wait for him to come back and pay him a visit. As she spoke, she added, Steward Xiao, I have a favor to ask of you. Ghost Doctor, if you have something to say, just say it. As long as I can do it, I won't refuse. He smiled and said, I want to find 2 300-year-old spiritual herbs. One is the icy heart white jade lotus, and the other is the exquisite rainbow flower. I'd like to ask Manager Xiao to help me find out where I can find these 2 spiritual herbs. Hearing this, Manager Xiao was startled for a moment, then chuckled, these 2 herbs are sacred antidotes, and 300-year-old ones are even rarer. If it's someone else, they probably won't be able to find them. But if it's the Ghost Doctor, I think it'll be easier. He smiled and looked at Fengjiu. He paused for a moment, then continued, our black market's influence is spread all over the place. What kind of spiritual herbs can we find? Whoever has them will know a little about them. Take the exquisite rainbow flower for example. There's a 300-year-old exquisite rainbow flower planted in the city lord's mansion. Coincidentally, the city lord's father has a terrible disease. He spread the news that anyone who can cure the old city lord's disease can make a request to the city lord. I think the Ghost Doctor can give it a try. As for the icy heart white jade lotus, it's rare, and it needs to be 300-year-old. Only Tianji Elder's Heavenly Mountain Snow Pond has it. Hearing this, Fengjiu's eyes flickered. He cupped his hands and thanked, thank you for your advice, Manager Xiao. I understand. Since he knew the place, he didn't have to worry about not being able to get the spiritual herbs. However, wasn't Tianji Elder Mo Chen's master? Mo Chen seemed to have returned to Heavenly Mountain. After getting the information he wanted, Fengjiu sat for a while and then stood up to leave. Steward Xiao personally sent them out and watched as the 2 of them walked away. Only then did he turn around and return to the black market, heading towards the loft at the back. He was prepared to inform the elders about the Ghost Doctor's visit to the black market, so that he could be informed as soon as his master returned. Even he couldn't understand why his master was so concerned about the Ghost Doctor. After all, even though the Ghost Doctor's medical skills were incomparable to ordinary people, but there were so many capable people in the world. However, ever since his master saw the portrait of the Ghost Doctor that was sent back, everything seemed to have changed. Black tokens were first class, and the status represented by first-class black tokens was greater than many people in the black market. However, for no reason, such treatment was given to the lower class, and even secretly taken care of by many parties, which made him very puzzled. Even the matter of the Ghost Doctor coming here, Master often knew about it. Unfortunately, when the Ghost Doctor came to visit, Master was not in the black market. Chapter 1533. On the other side, Du Fan, who had just exited the black market, followed behind Fengjiu. He looked around and said in a low voice, "Master, the people who were following us should have left." Feng Jiu responded casually, but in her mind, she was thinking that since she knew the location of the elixir, she had to prepare to go and collect it. However, as for Zhe, how long would he be gone? If he didn't come back in a short time, she wanted to leave on her own. Du Fan, how far is it from here to Tuan City? She tilted her head slightly and asked. Hearing this, Du Fan pondered for a while and calculated in his heart. He then said, it would take half a month to go there and back. Even if we flew all the way on a sword, it would take 8 or 9 days. He paused for a while, then said, Tuan City is relatively close from here. If we went to Tian Shan Mountain, it would take 1 or 2 months. Tian Shan Mountain is Tianji Elder's territory. It is said that it is covered in ice and snow all year round, and there are poisonous snakes and ferocious beasts there. Even fairies don't dare to trespass on Tian Shan Mountain. There is another saying that Tianji Elder is proficient in the art of divination and can see into the mysteries of heaven. He has set up layers of barriers in the sky to prevent people from entering and disturbing his cultivation. It won't be easy to go up to the sky. Fengjiu listened quietly and walked at a moderate pace. On the way back, she passed by a pastry shop and went in to buy some pastries. When she returned to the courtyard, she brought the pastries into the inner courtyard. Mother, I'm back. Look, I brought you some freshly baked pastries. Shengguan Wanrong sat up on the bed and looked at Fengjiu, who was dressed in men's clothes, approaching. She pulled her hand and asked her to sit on the bed. You're back so soon. Have you finished the things you went to do? I went to the black market. I wanted to visit the owner of the black market, but he wasn't there. So I sat for a while and asked about the whereabouts of the 2 spiritual medicines. I came back and bought some pastries on the way. She opened the box and took out the pastry that was still warm. Try it. Seeing this, Shengguan Wanrong smiled and reached out to take a bite. The crispy texture was mixed with a sweet fragrance. Even she, who was recuperating, felt that it was delicious. Delicious. It's crispy and fragrant. I went in to buy it because I smelled the fragrance on the street. She smiled and narrowed her eyes. Picking up a piece to eat, she said, Mother, I've asked the people from the black market to help send the letter back, so as to avoid Father waiting anxiously. You had someone send a letter back? Shengguan Wanrong was startled. She was somewhat hesitant. Won't this make your father worry? She smiled and waved her hand. No, no. I told him that you're fine and that we'll return once we're done with the matters here. You don't know this, but now that Father is the ruler of our Phoenix dynasty, everything is going smoothly. The surrounding countries and various forces are all on good terms with us. That's good. Her heart relaxed. Only then did she nod with a smile. Fengjiu ate the pastries and glanced at her. But Mother, I'm sure that when you return to the Phoenix dynasty to reunite with Father, the people from the Shengguan family will definitely come looking for you. In the past, when they found out that I was the ghost doctor, they wanted to establish a relationship with me. But I just ignored them. Chapter 1534. They completely disregarded their blood ties, broke up her marriage, separated her from her flesh and blood, and imprisoned her in the mansion to refine pills for them. If they were her family, how could they treat her like that? She had suffered so much at their hands, she absolutely could not let her daughter and Feng Xiao be bullied by them again. Since she left the Shengguan family with 3 Yangtze, she already did not want to recognize them as family. All right, Mother, let's not talk about them. I have something to tell you. She held her hand and said. Shengguan Wanrong heard this and smiled slightly. She looked at her with gentle eyes and said, What is it? Tell me. I'm going to Xian City to see what kind of disease the old city lord is suffering from. If I can cure him, then it won't be difficult to get the elixir. If I can't cure him, then I have to think of another way. If I go out, then I should go directly from Xian City to Tianshan Mountain. I should be gone for 2 or 3 months, so that although she had helped her nurse her body back to health these past few days, she was still a bit worried that she would be gone for 2 or 3 months. Hearing this, Shangguan Wanrong smiled gently and patted her hand. Since it's like this, then you should go. Don't worry, mother, I'll be fine here, and my body is gradually recovering. But do you want to go alone? Since you want to go, then call Mose. We'll have company together and can support each other on the way. I know. I plan to go to Yandian first before going to Xian City. She smiled and nodded, then said, but don't worry, Ling Shuang, Ling Hua, and Du Fan are all at home. They will take care of you. All right, mother knows. Shangguan Wanrong looked at her, her eyes full of the pride of a mother. After so many years, she did not expect her and Feng Zhao's daughter to grow up so well. On this day, after Feng Zhou arranged everything, he left some pills and medicinal liquid for Lang Hua and the others. At the same time, he told them not to forget to cultivate, hoping that their strength could increase again. The next day, before the sky was completely bright, she had prepared everything and was about to leave with Lao Bai, accompanied by the others, when she heard a long cry in the courtyard. Hearing the rooster's crow, Fengjiu raised his eyebrows and stopped. Is that Green Feather? Yes, master. Ever since it came to our place, it's been calling out every day, Du Fan said with a smile, glancing at Green Hair who was crowing somewhere in the front yard. Fengjiu nodded. Yes, I did hear a rooster crowing. At first, I thought it was someone else's, but Green Feather is a hen. A hen crowing. Shangguan Wanrong, who was being supported by Ling Shuang, chuckled. Naturally, the spiritual objects in the world can't be compared with ordinary objects. That's a spiritual bird. That's true. She patted Lao Bai's head and said to her mother, Mother, look at my horse. It's not a normal horse. After saying that, she laughed out loud. Lao Bai was teased and snorted. He raised his head. Of course, I, Lao Bai, am unique. All right, we're leaving. Fengjiu led Lao Bai out the door and said to them, You don't need to see us off. Master, be careful on the road. Du Fan and the others said. Take good care of yourself. Be careful in everything. Shangguan Wanrong warned. Chapter 1535. On the other side, in Danyang's sect. On this day, Duan Mubai woke up from his coma and slowly opened his eyes. Wuan Changchun, who was guarding beside him, saw him and asked happily, Eldest senior brother. You're awake. Duan Mubai composed himself and looked at him. He opened his mouth and called out in a weak and hoarse voice, Junior brother. Wuan Changchun helped him sit up and poured him a cup of water. Drink some water to moisten your throat first. Feeling that his body was weak, he leaned against the head of the bed and spoke weakly. After resting for a while, he remembered Shangguan Wanrong and hurriedly asked, Junior brother, little junior sister, Wuan Changchun held his hand and walked outside. He activated the cave abode's array formation and walked in. Eldest senior brother, you don't know what happened in Danyang's sect during the days you were unconscious. He moved a chair to the side of the bed and sat down. He looked at him and paused for a while, as if he was thinking about how to speak. After a long time, he said, Master is dead. What? Master is dead. How can that be? Who killed him? He could not hide his shock as he asked. A peak master is dead. Wouldn't their 3 young peak be in a mess? Ruan Changchun recalled what happened that night, and a complicated look flashed across his eyes. Fengzhou killed him. He's the servant in our peak, Fengzhou. She's a girl, little junior sister's daughter. She probably sneaked into our peak for little junior sister. Fengzhou. He's a girl. And little junior sister's daughter. Hearing this, Duan Mubai still felt that it was unbelievable. Fengzhou is only a foundation establishment cultivator. How can he kill master? Could there be a mistake? I saw it with my own eyes. Fengzhou is already a nascent soul cultivator. He sighed and said, Junior Martial Sister was captured by Master. When Fengzhou rescued her from Master's Immortal's cave, she was already on the verge of death. Her body was full of whip marks. Master used a whip soaked in medicinal liquid to whip Junior Martial Sister. He thought there were some things that he could not say. Only he knew about that scene. It was like a huge secret hidden in his heart, and he had to bear it alone. It was also this secret that overturned his original respect and worship for his master. How could a person like Master do such a thing? Duan Mubai was speechless for a long time after hearing this. He just sat there quietly. After a long while, he finally said, because Master's lifespan is almost up, because he wants to live, he wants to use little junior sister as a human furnace to refine pills that can extend his life. I have always wanted to stop him, unfortunately. Unfortunately, he couldn't stop it. Moreover, eldest senior brother, Fengzhou even killed the sect leader's sacred beast. Many strong cultivators in the sect have died. That night, there was a huge fire that burned all the peaks. Even the sect leader has not recovered from his injuries. Now, the entire sect is in a mess. Hearing this, Duan Mubai was shocked. Killed the sect leader's sacred beast. Even the sect leader is heavily injured. How did this matter become so serious? The Danyang sect was the #1 alchemy sect in the 8 great empires. It was not a small matter for such a thing to happen. Not to mention that the sect would be in a mess, they might even be targeted by other sects at any time, which would make things worse. Moreover, with such a big thing happening, would the sect really let it go? They would not let Fengzhou off so easily. Chapter 1536. He told him everything that happened that night in detail, including the fact that 3 Yang Peak didn't have a Peak Master at the moment, and that the other Peak Masters were eyeing 3 Yang Peak's territory, wanting to push their people up to be the Peak Master. Eldest senior brother, you've been in the Peak for many years, and you're outstanding in both your character and alchemy skills. Now that Master is dead, and there are people from other peaks eyeing 3 Yang Peak, I've discussed with a few junior brothers a few days ago. Instead of letting the other Peak Masters push their people to be in charge of 3 Yang Peak, why don't we push you to be our Peak Master? This is the only way that 3 Yang Peak won't be oppressed by the other peaks. Furthermore, only you can make everyone believe in you. Ruan Changchun looked at him and told him the plan that he and his junior brothers had discussed. In his opinion, no one in 3 Yang Peak was more qualified to be the Peak Master than his eldest senior brother. Duan Mubai remained silent for a while, then nodded his head. Let's talk about this matter after I recover from my injuries. Now that the sect master is injured, the Peak Master of our 3 Yang Peak shouldn't make a decision so quickly. In addition, you should make arrangements for Master's funeral. No matter what, the things that Master did cannot be revealed. Yes, eldest senior brother, don't worry. I'll take care of these things. Ruan Changchun replied and took out another pill. This is a vitality recovery pill, eldest senior brother, take another one. Duan Mubai took the pill and put it into his mouth. He was thinking about how little junior sister had asked him to take care of Fengzhou before she left, but he didn't expect things to turn out like this. Oh right, junior brother, do you have little junior sister's whereabouts? He asked. Master had used medicine on her, but he didn't know how her body was doing. No, but I've sent people to investigate secretly. Master's death wouldn't involve little junior sister. Eldest senior brother, you can rest assured. Even if little junior sister shows herself outside, nothing will happen to her. That's good. He nodded and caught his breath, then closed his eyes to rest. Seeing this, Ruan Changchun helped him lie down. Eldest senior brother, take care of your body. I'll leave first, I'll come and see you tomorrow. All right, Duan Mubai replied. He seemed to have thought of something and said, help me call Luo Hing over. Ruan Changchun retreated and asked someone to call Luo Hing over. He then went to deal with the matters on the peak. When a servant came to report that his master wanted to see him, Luo Heng was in the middle of a conversation with Qin Dao. The two of them looked at each other before Qin Dao said, what are you waiting for? Go. But why do I feel like you want to ask me about Fingzhou? Luo Heng scratched his head awkwardly. In the past few days, because Fingzhou was here, he was closer to her. He had already been called over several times for questioning. When his master woke up and wanted to see him at this time, it definitely had something to do with Fingzhou. Just answer whatever he asks. What's there to be embarrassed about? Besides, we don't know anything that Fingzhou doesn't want us to know. There's nothing to hide. Qin Dao pushed him out and said, if there's anything you can't make up your mind about, you can come find me. Chapter 1537. When he arrived at his master's cave, he saw that the enchantment was not closed. He walked in and called out, Master. Disciple Luo Heng is here to greet you. Come in. Duan Mu Bai's hoarse and weak voice came from inside. Luo Heng swallowed his saliva when he heard the words inside. He paused for a moment before walking in. When he arrived at the bedroom, he saw the figure leaning against the head of the bed. He went forward and cupped his hands in greeting, Master, I wonder what instructions do you have for me? Duan Mu Bai's gaze landed on Luo Heng as he sized him up. To be honest, he had many disciples under him. Luo Heng's cultivation and talent in alchemy could only be considered below average. Hence, he had never paid attention to him before. Recently, he remembered that there was such a person among his disciples because of Fingzhou. Because he was close to Fingzhou, other than him, it seemed that Qin Dao was also close to Fingzhou. You should be very close to Fingzhou, right? Luo Heng's heart trembled when he heard this. He hurriedly waved his hand, no. Actually, I'm not close to him at all. I. That was the person who killed the Peak Master, exterminated the sect master's sacred beast, and set the sect on fire. How could he dare to say that he was close to that ancestor? You don't have to be afraid. I'm not going to pursue the matter. Duan Mu Bai raised his hand and gestured for him not to panic, I know that you're close to him. He entered 3 Yang Peak because you introduced him. Luo Heng's face turned pale and his eyelids twitched. He thought to himself, it's over. You said you're not going to pursue the matter. Now you're digging up old scores. Even Master knows that Fingzhou entered 3 Yang Peak because of him. This is heaven's will to kill me. Duan Mu Bai was startled when he saw Luo Heng's pale face and trembling body. He glanced at Luo Heng and continued, Master wants you to leave the sect and find her whereabouts. Can you do it? Master, she is a nascent soul. I did he was no match for her. Even if he found her, he wouldn't be able to bring her back. Moreover, Fingzhou had a personal relationship with them. It would be inappropriate for him to capture her. I only asked you to search for her whereabouts. I didn't ask you to capture her. As he spoke, he coughed lightly and continued, regarding the matter of Master's death, since the guardian elder also said that this matter should not be mentioned again, naturally, he will not attack Fingzhou again. However, there are some things that I do not understand, and I would like to personally ask her why she burned down the sect and killed my master. Actually, he wanted to find Fingzhou and ask if his junior sister was okay. Furthermore, the sect would not lay a hand on Fingzhou, but the sect leader had suffered such a huge loss at the hands of Fingzhou, so he was afraid that she would not let this matter rest. He felt that he had to remind her about this matter. Hearing this, Luo Heng heaved a sigh of relief. He patted his chest and said, "You scared me to death." So that's what happened. He looked at his master, who was sitting on the bed, and said, "Master, if you only want to find Fingzhou and not capture her, I can certainly do this. However, I would like to invite senior brother Chen Dao to travel with me." Chen Dao. His leg. Duan Mubai frowned. Chapter 1538. Hearing this, Duan Mubai's eyes flickered. Fingzhou actually cured Chen Dao's leg. He knew that all the doctors and alchemists in the sect had taken a look at Chen Dao's leg. They all said that he would never be able to stand up again. Who would have thought that? Since that's the case, ask Chen Dao to come over. I'll talk to him. Yes, I'll call him right away. As he spoke, he bowed and quickly left. He had not been home for a long time. Perhaps he could take this opportunity to go home and see his family. Soon, Chen Dao was brought to Duan Mubai's cave abode by Luo Heng. After bowing, he asked directly, "Uncle Master Duan wants me and junior brother Luo to go down the mountain to look for Fingzhou?" "That's right." He nodded and looked at the two of them. "I know that the two of you are on good terms with Fingzhou, so I'll need you to do this." Hearing this, Chen Dao's eyes flashed. He looked at Duan Mubai and asked, "Fingzhou killed the 3 young peak master. Doesn't Uncle Master Duan hate her? Don't you want to kill her? Do you want to avenge the 3 young peak master?" Duan Mubai looked at him deeply and said, "The sect guardian elder has already instructed us not to pursue this matter further. Naturally, I will not go against the sect guardian elder's orders. Furthermore, she would not kill my master for no reason. The reason behind this matter is not something we can investigate further. However, with all these things happening, if she were to encounter danger outside and get killed, it's very likely that the Yama Palace's Yama Lord would think that it's our sect's doing. Therefore, I'm doing this for the sake of our sect and our 3 young peak." Hearing this, the two of them looked at each other. This reason sounded a little forced. After all, if this was said by someone else, it would not be a big deal. However, 3 young Z was his master. How could he be so calm when his master was killed? How could he handle and face this matter so calmly? This matter was a little strange, but they could not pinpoint what was strange about it. The two of them stayed in the cave abode for about 5 minutes. After listening to Duan Mubai's instructions, they took their waste tokens and left the cave abode. Outside the cave, Luo Heng could not hide his excitement. "Senior brother Qin, when are we leaving?" Chen Dao thought for a moment and said, "Tomorrow. Deal with the matters at hand first." "All right, then I'll see you at the mountain gate tomorrow. I'll go back and prepare first." Luo Heng said and left. He was preparing to go back. He planned to compete for some better medicinal pills to bring back as gifts for his parents. As for the ordinary ones that could be used, he would refine them himself. Although their character was not very good, they were still medicinal pills. At the same time, in the main peak where the sect lord resided, the sect lord was resting on his bed. His eyes were filled with hostility and murderous intent. His originally dignified face was now filled with unwillingness and resentment. "Have you done what I told you to do?" At the same time his gloomy voice was heard, he lifted his gaze and looked towards the black figure standing in the dark. This subordinate has already done as master instructed. Master, please rest assured. I believe that it won't be long before good news comes back. Very good. Chapter 1539. On a mountain path, Fengzhou, who was dressed in red, retracted one leg and placed it on Lao Bai's back, while his other leg hung down beside Lao Bai. He was gnawing on a fruit in his hand, and his figure seemed to sway as Lao Bai walked. Lao Bai, you should walk faster. How am I going to bring you out with me at this speed? Fengzhou said helplessly as he gnawed on the fruit. She had originally thought going to Yanqing City was not something that could be done in a short period of time. She wanted to bring Lao Bai along and let him go out for a walk. Who knew that Lao Bai would stay at home for too long, and his hooves would not be able to run outside? At this rate, how long would it take to reach Yanqing City? When she decided to go to Yanqing City, she had sent a message to Yan Dian. If Xianyuan Mose could reach Yanqing City by then, it would be one thing, but if he could not, she would go to Yan Dian to look for him. After all, the journey to Tian Shan was long, and the round trip would take 2 to 3 months. If he could accompany her along the way, at least he could look after her. Master, sit tight. I'm leaving now. Lao Bai's voice fell, and he suddenly broke into a run. Fengzhou did not sit properly and leaned towards the back. Fortunately, he held on to the rope and steadied himself. He galloped along the mountain path, and the sound of his footsteps reverberated throughout the mountain path. As Lao Bai ran, yellow sand was kicked up along the mountain path. It was not until evening that Lao Bai slowed down. Master, I'm thirsty. Let's find a place to rest. Fengzhou saw that they had covered a long distance in one day, so he nodded. All right. Let's find a place to rest. As he spoke, he jumped down and walked into the forest beside the path. He stretched his back and moved his muscles. Then, he said to Lao Bai, go and find some water to drink. Lao Bai swayed and shook his body, then he went to find a water source. When it heard the tinkling sound of water and found a stream, it opened its mouth and went forward to drink. However, at this moment, it faintly heard some sound coming from the water downstream. With curiosity, it followed the road and went downstream through the weeds. When it saw the scene in the water, its eyes lit up and saliva flowed out involuntarily. Its whole body also lay down in the weeds to hide. What a beauty! He praised in his heart, and his eyes were fixed on the figure in the water. At this time, the sky was not completely dark, and he could see the woman's snow-white shoulders in the water, as well as her faintly discernible beauty. However, when he looked, after a few glances, he remembered that his master. He wanted to leave first and go back to tell his master. However, when he was about to leave, he realized that there was a man hiding in the weeds not far away in the weeds. Just as he was about to leave, he retreated and he retreating back. Seeing this scene, its horse face pulled a long face. It immediately circled around and quietly arrived behind the man who was staring at the spring in the water. With a raise of its hooves, it directly kicked the man away. Pervert! How dare you peek at a woman bathing? Lao Bai scolded and raised his horse's face. He felt that he had done a good deed. Ah! The man was kicked out unexpectedly, and he lost his balance and flew out. He fell into the stream in front of him, and with a loud splash, he created a large splash. Chapter 1540. However, when Lao Bai saw the man who had been kicked into the water emerge from the bottom of the water and stand right in front of the woman, he could not help but be dumbfounded. It seemed that he had done more harm than good again. Thinking of this, he quickly retracted his hooves that were about to take a step forward. He glanced at the two people in the water and ran back. Fengzhou, who was stretching his limbs under the tree, suddenly heard a man and a woman cry out in alarm. He could not help but be slightly surprised and looked in the direction of the sound. He saw that Lao Bai had run back not long after. "Master, master, let's go quickly. I did something bad again." He circled around her, wanting her to hurry up. "What bad things did you do?" Fengzhou asked in astonishment. He was not in a hurry to get on the horse. "I saw a woman bathing in the water, and then a man peeked at her from the side. I kicked him into the water, but who knew that I would send the man directly to the naked woman?" Lao Bai said hurriedly. Thinking of the stupid thing he had done, he felt ashamed to see his master. Hearing this, Fengzhou raised his eyebrows. Listening to the silence in the forest, he felt that something was not right. He walked towards the place where the sound had come from. According to Lao Bai, the two people should be quarreling or fighting. Why was there no sound? "Master, where are you going?" Lao Bai hurriedly followed and asked. "I'm going to take a look. You sent a man to a naked woman. Aren't you deliberately letting the man commit a crime? I don't believe that there is a man who has such good character. Let's go take a look, in case something happens." Lao Bai was stunned. He could not understand the human's thoughts. It shouldn't be, right? In his opinion, he had already taken advantage of the situation. How could he commit a crime? However, when the man and the horse arrived at the stream, before they even got close, they saw a man who had stripped down to his underpants groping an unconscious woman. Seeing this, Fengzhou frowned slightly. With a turn of his hand, a silver needle shot out and pierced the back of the man's neck. The man's body stiffened, and he fell down without even turning his head. "Look at what you've done." She glanced angrily at Senior White, who had his head lowered, and walked up to the woman to examine her. She only withdrew her hand when she saw that she had only been knocked unconscious. Just as she was about to leave, she saw the woman's eyelashes tremble, and then she opened her eyes. When she saw a red-clothed youth squatting in front of her, she screamed in fright. "Ah! Stop shouting. It was my master who saved you. If it wasn't for my master, you would have been in deep trouble." Lao Bai bit the woman's clothes and threw them on her body. He tactfully turned his eyes away and didn't look around. At this moment, the woman saw the half-naked man lying beside her. Thinking of how he had ignored her resistance and taken advantage of her in the water, she was annoyed. With one hand holding her clothes to cover her body, she took out a dagger from the space bracelet on her wrist and slashed his throat. Blood seeped out and dyed the stream water. Fengzhou, who had retreated to the side, raised his eyebrows when he saw this scene. Then, he turned around and left with Lao Bai. It seemed that he was a ruthless character. Lao Bai did not dare to say anything when he saw this. He obediently followed Fengzhou with his tail between his legs. Chapter 1541. However, when she walked out, all she saw was a cloud of dust on the mountain path, and the young man in red was nowhere to be seen. He left just like that. The woman stomped her foot and bit her lip. She had not even asked for the young man's name. In the night, a white horse and a young man in red were rushing along the mountain path. As they galloped, the night wind blew against their faces, making their eyes hurt. Lao Bai asked as he ran, "Master, is it really okay to leave that beauty there? What if she gets into danger?" In his opinion, the woman was beautiful and had a voluptuous figure. If she went on the road alone, she would be in danger. If his master was willing to bring her along, perhaps he would not be so worried. Hearing this, Fengzhou curled his lips and revealed a wicked smile. "Lao Bai, when we get home, I'll find you a female horse. How about I let you settle down?" "Master, I'm a mutant. How can a normal horse be worthy of me?" No, no. As they galloped in the night, his voice was scattered by the wind. The man and the horse chatted until they saw a small village when the sky gradually brightened. Master, we have a small village. Let's go and rest. As Lao Bai spoke, he had already started walking towards the village. When we enter the village, don't open your mouth to speak, or you'll scare people, Fengzhou instructed. Okay, I know, Lao Bai replied. It answered and then closed its mouth. Following the village road, they saw some people carrying hose or 2 wooden buckets out of their houses in the morning. Some of the roofs had smoke rising in spirals. It was obvious that they were already preparing breakfast. Fengzhou dismounted from his horse and led Lao Bai to a house. He knocked on the door. Is anyone home? The simple wooden door creaked open, and an old woman came out to open the door. When she saw Fengzhou, who was dressed in red and looked as handsome as an immortal, she was startled. She asked cautiously, "Young master, is there anything I can help you with?" Seeing that it was the old woman, she smiled and asked, "Elder, I'm passing by and would like to rest here. Is that okay?" "Of course you can. It's just that my house is simple and crude. I hope young master doesn't mind." As the old woman spoke, she opened the door and invited Fengzhou in. Seeing the horse in Fengzhou's hand, she said, "Young master, this horse can be tied to the wooden stake in front of the door." "All right." She responded and tied Lao Bai to a wooden stake in front of the door. She patted his head and gave him a few instructions before entering the wooden house. "Young master, there isn't anything good in the house. Please don't mind and just eat a little." The old woman brought Fengzhou a bowl of millet porridge, a small plate of pickled vegetables, and 2 pumpkin pancakes. Looking at the farmer's snacks, Fengzhou smiled and squinted his eyes. He quickly expressed his gratitude. "Thank you, elder." Out of the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of a 5- or 6-year-old boy with a ponytail poking his head out and staring at her curiously. "Is this your grandson?" She looked at the child and asked with a smile. "Yes, he's my grandson." The old woman revealed a loving smile and waved at the little boy. "Xiaohu, come out and greet young master." The little boy blinked and shyly looked at Fengzhou. He ran out and hid behind his grandmother. Chapter 1542. Seeing this, Fengzhou took out a box of pastries from her space and handed it to the child. "Here, this is for you." These were the pastries she bought for the journey, but she didn't eat much on the way. "How can I accept this?" The old woman hurriedly refused. Looking at the exquisite box of pastries and smelling the fragrance of the pastries, she didn't dare to accept it. Ordinary people like them wouldn't eat such things, and they didn't dare to accept it. "It's okay, it's for the child. Take it." She squatted down and opened the box, revealing the exquisite pastries inside. "It's very delicious. Take it." The little boy's eyes lit up as he looked at the pastries in the box. He couldn't help but put his little finger into his mouth. His eyes couldn't move away from the exquisite pastries. "Young master, this." The rich people who passed by in the past looked down on the villagers and never gave them things like this. For a moment, the old woman didn't know what to do. "It's okay. It's just a box of pastries." She stuffed the pastries into the child's hands. "Take it." The little boy hugged the box of pastries that Fengzhou stuffed into his hands. His innocent little face couldn't help but reveal a happy smile. "Thank you, big brother. You have to call me young master." The old woman hurriedly said. "Thank you, young master," the child said crisply. He quickly ran to the back with the pastries and shouted, "Grandpa, Grandpa, there are delicious pastries. Young master, you eat first. There's more if it's not enough." the old woman said and walked inside. Fingio sat down and ate millet porridge with side dishes and pumpkin cakes. The breakfast was simple and refreshing. After breakfast, she rested in the room that the old woman vacated. She planned to sleep and leave at noon. Until noon, the old woman knocked on the door. "Young master, lunch is ready. Get up and eat." The door opened and Fingio, who had slept, walked out. She was about to leave, but at the old woman's invitation, she sat down and had a meal. After chatting with them for a while, she got up and said goodbye. "Don't worry, old woman. If I see your son, I'll definitely pass on your message." She rode on Lao Bai's back and waved at the old woman. She reined in the horse and left. "Grandma, Grandma, look." The little boy came out with a few gold coins. "That big brother gave it to me." The old woman looked at the gold coins and took them with trembling hands. Her lips moved, but her eyes were slightly red and she didn't say anything for a long time. She sped up her journey and arrived at Huanyan City in the evening. She rode a white horse into the city. Her handsome face, outstanding temperament, and red clothes were extremely dazzling. As soon as she entered the city, she attracted the attention of many people. She was already used to this kind of target. She sat on Lao Bai's back and only dismounted when they arrived at an inn. The waiter hurriedly came out and helped her lead Lao Bai to the stables at the back. "Waiter, give me one of the best rooms." Fingio shouted and walked upstairs, saying, "Give me a few more specialties and a pot of wine." "All right, this way please, young master." The waiter led the way and poured a cup of tea for her after they entered the room. "Young master, please have some tea first. The dishes will be served soon." The waiter retreated, and before long, the dishes were served and placed on the table. Just as he was about to leave, he was called out. Chapter 1543. Hearing this, the waiter turned back and replied with a smile, "It's not far, just a few streets away. However, it's not easy to enter the city lord's mansion recently. If young master doesn't have any connections, I'm afraid you won't be able to enter the city lord's mansion." Fingio's eyes moved slightly, his eyebrows slightly raised. "Oh. Why is that?" "Young master is not from here, so you don't know. The old city lord has been ill for 2 or 3 months, but no one can cure him. Not long ago, the city lord sent out a message saying that as long as someone can cure the old city lord's illness, they will promise him one thing unconditionally. Therefore, doctors and alchemists from all over rushed over to give it a try." Speaking of this, the waiter laughed. "Now, the city lord's mansion is surrounded by people from morning to night. Other than some doctors and alchemists, there are also some spectators and some rogue cultivators. Therefore, it's not easy to enter the city lord's mansion. Even if you are a doctor or an alchemist, not every one of you can enter." Fingio drank a cup of wine and poured another cup. With a flip of his other hand, a gold coin flew out into the waiter's arms. "Continue, tell me everything you know." When the waiter received the money, and it wasn't a silver coin but a gold coin, his eyes immediately lit up and he hurriedly told Fingio everything he knew. After a long while, he left. After eating, Fingio went out to walk around, thinking of finding out the direction of the city lord's mansion. He also wanted to see if it was really as the waiter said, that there were doctors and alchemists outside the city lord's mansion. He didn't expect that when he arrived at the street outside the city lord's mansion, he would be surrounded by so many people. Just as the waiter had said, in addition to doctors, there were also alchemists. Moreover, their strengths varied. Among them, there were even people wearing the robes of the Danyang sect. From the looks of it, his illness hasn't been cured yet. However, an old city lord is ill. Even if the city lord can make any request, why would it attract so many people here? She whispered softly, feeling a little surprised. She had only come here because she needed the exquisite rainbow flower to concoct the medicine, but the doctors and alchemists there all had badges hanging in front of their chests, indicating their status and rank. It was a little strange that they were huddled here and discussing in low voices. Hee, of course it's for fame. A voice sounded. Fengjiu looked over and saw a doctor in his 30s standing next to him with a face full of anticipation and excitement. This old city lord's illness is something that many people have failed to cure. Moreover, because old city lord Duan has a wide network of friends, and his family has many outstanding talents in various fields, the old city lord's illness has been treated by several famous doctors and alchemists, but none of them have been able to cure him. If there is someone who can cure him, he will definitely become famous. With such an opportunity, who wouldn't want to give it a try? Fengjiu's gaze moved downwards, landing on the badge on his chest, and then faintly moving away. With so many people, not everyone can see the old city lord, right? Of course. Since the old city lord's health is not good, he naturally can't meet so many people. Only 10 people can enter each day, and these 10 people must be selected after a test. Chapter 1544. Hearing this, Fengjiu's lips curled into a smile. I was just walking around with nothing to do. Seeing so many people here, I got curious. This is not a place for you little kids. Go play wherever you want. Hurry up and leave. He waved his hand and said. I'm almost 20. I really have nothing to do with being a little kid. She said with a smile. Being called a little kid was really awkward. Ha ha ha, 20. Do you know how old I am? She looked at the man in his 30s and raised her chin. Fengjiu smiled and asked casually, how old? He looked like he was in his 30s, but his bone age was definitely more than that. I'm 108 years old. However, I haven't married yet. I was just thinking that if I can make a name for myself, then I can marry this city lord's daughter. That would be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. He looked at the city lord's mansion with a yearning gaze. His eyes lit up as he said, it said that this city lord's daughter is 16 years old this year. She's the #1 beauty in the city. Moreover, she's a beauty with a high cultivation level. Hearing this person's age, his goals and plans, Fengjiu's mouth couldn't help but twitch. An old man over 100 years old dared to covet a 16-year-old girl. His skin was really thick. Perhaps it was because he saw Fengjiu's twitching mouth. That person laughed and said, for us cultivators, what does being 100 years old mean? Hundreds of years old can be found everywhere. If one can truly become an immortal, their lifespan will be as long as the heavens and earth. What's so strange about that? In comparison, isn't my 100 years old just like a teenager? That's right. That makes sense. Fengjiu nodded in agreement. Immortal cultivators couldn't be compared to mortals. Mortals in their 60s and 70s were rare, but immortal cultivators could do it in the blink of an eye. The higher one's cultivation level, the more one could maintain one's peak appearance. It was just like this 100-year-old alchemist who had a 30-year-old appearance. In the immortal cultivation world, there were many old couples and young wives. After all, when a man had strength, how could he not have beautiful and enchanting beauties by his side? However, this person wanted to marry the city lord's daughter, the #1 beauty in the city. His skin was really thick. One look and one could tell that he was a useless person. If he had the ability, he would have gone in long ago. Why would he still be standing here boasting shamelessly? She shook her head inwardly and turned around to leave. However, her sleeve was pulled by that person. She immediately raised her hand and brushed that person away. The man staggered back several steps and was brushed away by a strong force. He almost fell to the ground. After he regained his footing, He felt ashamed and shouted at Fengzhou, You little child, how can you be so rude? Fengzhou glanced back at him and said indifferently, Sorry, I'm not used to people touching me. As he spoke, he had already walked away. Seeing that Fengzhou had apologized, the man didn't pursue the matter. He only shook his head and said, Young people these days really don't know any rules. He ignored him and squeezed to the front to talk to the other alchemists. After strolling around the streets for a while, she returned to the inn to take a bath. Then, she lay down early to rest, preparing to go to the city lord's mansion early in the morning to take a look. The night passed peacefully. When dawn came, she went out after breakfast. As usual, she was wearing a dazzling red robe and dressed like an elegant young master. Chapter 1545. Where did this young man come from? What are you doing squeezing so close to the front? Go away, go away. Don't make trouble here, go somewhere else to play. What are you doing here, little kid? Hurry up and leave, don't delay our business. The alchemists and doctors in front were thinking hard and discussing matters, but when they saw a red-clothed young man squeezing his way forward, they all spoke out to chase him away. Fengzhou glanced at them and said, Please make way. Make way. Kid, do you know where this is? Do you know who you're talking to? An alchemist who looked to be in his 40s shouted in a deep voice, and at the same time, he stuck out the badge on his chest that represented his identity. Fengzhou glanced at him and said leisurely, What does it have to do with me who you are? Please make way, you're blocking my way. The alchemist who had never been ignored like this showed anger on his face. He was a pill ancestor. He was a pill ancestor. Moreover, he was a high-level pill ancestor. This young man actually dared to speak to him in such a tone, he was really too arrogant and impudent. You actually dared. Before his angry voice fell, he was stunned by the scene in front of him, and he couldn't say a single word. His eyes were filled with shock, and he looked at the red-clothed young man in front of him with a face of disbelief. He saw that Fengzhou casually took out a badge and pinned it on her chest. That was a pill ancestor's badge, which was one level higher than a pill ancestor's badge. Perhaps one or two pill saints could be found in this entire city, but it was impossible to find a pill ancestor as young as this young man. Moreover, if this young man only took out the pill ancestor's badge and pinned it on her chest, it would be fine, but after he pinned the badge, he flicked the red robe on his body, and actually reached into his sleeves. Not long after, he took out another badge and pinned it on her chest. When they saw the badge that the young man had pinned on, the surrounding people couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. The originally chaotic crowd that was discussing the matter all quieted down at this moment. The atmosphere was so quiet that it was strange. It was so quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. It was because it was the badge of an alchemy saint, the badge of an alchemy saint. Regardless of whether it was an alchemy saint master or an alchemy saint master, any one of them would definitely be a peak figure in any place. They would definitely be figures who would be revered by tens of thousands of people. However, the scene before their eyes only made them feel disbelief and strangeness. That type of emblem, that type of extremely difficult sacred expert emblem, extremely precious, how could it possibly be in the hands of a youngster? Moreover, this young man was the owner of two badges at the same time. This was simply too unbelievable. Not to mention the previous alchemy grandmaster who couldn't utter a single word at this time, even the surrounding people couldn't make a single sound. Was this scene real? How could such a young man already be a saint alchemist and saint alchemist? Not to mention here in Tuan City, even if it was placed in other places, there wouldn't be such a freak like him, right? Chapter 1546. No, nothing. The alchemy Grand Master stammered and hurriedly retreated to the side, not daring to block Fengzhou's path. As soon as Fengzhou put on the 2 badges, the city lord's mansion's people had already gone in to report. What? There's an alchemy Saint Master outside. Moreover, he's also an alchemy Saint Master. He actually has 2 alchemy Saint Master badges at the same time. In the main hall, the city lord was in disbelief after hearing the guard's words. Is this true? Are you sure? It can't be wrong. Many people outside saw it, but this person is very young. He looks like he's not even 20 years old. Hearing this, the city lord stood up and walked back and forth in the hall. After a long time, he said, "I'll go take a look." As soon as his voice fell, he walked out. When he came outside, he just happened to hear the scene in front of the city lord's mansion. At this moment, a red-clothed youth stood at the front. The surrounding people all retreated, making him, who was already conspicuous, even more dazzling. Examination. Gee. Do you think I have nothing better to do than come here to play with the examination? You can leave this for others to use, but it won't work on me. Fengzhou sneered and glanced at the middle-aged man who advocated the examination with a lazy expression. It was normal for the city lord to set up an examination in front of the city lord's mansion, but it was not normal for her to use it. For someone who had 2 alchemy Saint Master badges, if they really stopped the examination, where would she put her face in the future? What's more, they were the ones who were seeking treatment. How could she beg to come to their door? She came to the city lord's mansion for the medicine, but she would not come to their door and beg them to let her treat it. A doctor must not go and pull others. If she really did that, not only would she lose her status, but it would also make people doubt her medical skills. She would not do such a thing that did not please her. Otherwise, she wouldn't have taken out 2 badges and put them on. Since she took out 2 badges, it was to tell them that she had strength that they could not compare to. Young Master. A low voice sounded, attracting everyone's attention. When everyone saw who it was, someone said in a low voice, "It's the City Lord." City Lord Duan came out. I didn't expect City Lord Duan to come out. At this moment, everyone had mixed feelings. They did not expect that after waiting here for so long, hoping for a chance to make a name for themselves, they would not even be able to step through the City Lord's gate. Meanwhile, this red-clothed youngster who came from who knew where was actually someone with 2 sacred expert emblems. What was the most difficult for them to accept was that this youngster really was a youngster. His bone age was precisely that of less than 20 years of age, not like them who had youthful appearances, but whose bone age was already several tens or even over 100. They tried everything they could to meet the city lord, but to no avail. As soon as the youth pinned the 2 badges on, the city lord himself ran out to greet him. Just thinking about it made him feel really good. Fengzhou looked in the direction of the voice and saw that it was a middle-aged man dressed in black. He had an extraordinary aura, and his face seemed vaguely familiar, which made her feel a little strange. Young Master, I am the City Lord of Huanyan City. Please come in and talk. The City Lord made an inviting gesture to Fengzhou and invited Fengzhou in. Chapter 1547. In the main hall of the City Lord Manor, the City Lord sat on the main seat and asked, "How should I address you, young master?" "My surname is Feng." She took a sip of tea and said slowly, "So it's young Master Feng. My apologies." He cupped his hands and said with a smile, "Young Master Feng, you have 2 Holy Master badges at such a young age. You're really not simple. City Lord Duan, let's not beat around the bush." She put down the teacup and looked at him. "I heard that the old master's health is not very good." "That's right." He nodded and said, "I've asked many people to take a look at my father, but none of them could cure him. I wonder if I could trouble young Master Feng to take a look. If you can cure my father, young Master Feng can just say the word. As long as I can do it or have something in the manner, I can give it to young Master Feng as a reward. A 300-year-old 7 colors exquisite flower. She looked at him and said, I want this spiritual herb. Hearing this, City Lord Duan knew that the young man in front of him came for this spiritual herb. He was slightly startled and nodded. Sure. As long as young Master Feng can cure my father, I'll give you the 300-year-old 7 colors exquisite flower in my manner. Where's your father? Lead the way. She stood up and patted her robes. Young Master Feng, this way please. The city lord immediately stood up and led the way. Following City Lord Duan to a courtyard, Fengjiu glanced at the guards guarding the courtyard and raised his eyebrows. The guards inside were actually nascent soul cultivators? It seemed that the city lord manor was still very powerful. Under the city lord's lead, they entered the master bedroom. When they arrived at the inner room, they saw the unconscious man lying on the bed and were surprised. The man on the bed looked to be around 30 years old. He was very young and handsome. No matter how they looked at him, he didn't look like the city lord's father. However, Fengjiu checked his bone age with his divine sense and understood. This man should be the city lord's father, the previous city lord. Even though he looked young, his bone age was already quite old. However, he was a fairy realm expert. With such strength, it was normal for his appearance to be at his peak. When she first saw the city lord, she felt that he looked somewhat familiar. Now that she looked at the city lord's father who was unconscious, she suddenly understood. No wonder he found this person familiar. Duan Mubai's face in Danyang Peak was 60 to 70% similar to this person lying down. It seemed like the Duan clan in Yen City should be Duan Mubai's clan. She didn't expect that the exquisite rainbow flower would actually come to Duan Mubai's house. However, why didn't he come back when his family was in trouble? Young Master Feng, this is my father. He is a fairy realm expert. However, 2 months ago, his body started acting strangely, and recently, he fell into a coma. Many doctors couldn't find anything wrong with him, even after checking on him. At this time, Fengjiu had already reached out to check his pulse, and then unbuttoned his clothes to check his body. When he saw a slight bulge on his waist, his eyes could not help but narrow slightly. At first, I was worried that he had been poisoned, so I asked the doctor to do a blood test, but he didn't find any poison. The city lord said from the side, feeling a little nervous. He did not know if this young man in red could save his father. Chapter 1548. Hearing the city lord's words, Fengjiu didn't say anything. Instead, she glanced at the slightly swollen waist and examined his head. After a long while, she withdrew her hand and left. If I'm not wrong, there should be a type of spirit-devouring insect called the black and white impermanence in his body. At most, he has 7 days left to live. She slowly walked out of the room as she spoke. When the city lord heard this, he couldn't hide the shock on his face. He stared blankly for a moment, then glanced at his father on the bed. He had a servant girl help him put on his clothes and quickly followed Fengjiu out. Young Master Feng is saying that there are insects in my father's body. How is that possible? How could insects hide in the body? Moreover, cultivators can see the inside of their body. If there were insects in his body, how could his father not know? How is it not possible? Doesn't your father have 1 male and 1 female in his body? Hearing this, the city lord opened his mouth in disbelief. 2. And 1 male and 1 female. This, because of the shock in his heart and those words, he didn't know what to say for a long time. He only felt that it was inconceivable. However, right at that moment, the red-clothed youngster took something out from his sleeve. Soon, he took out a thick book. He watched as the youth flipped through it and finally pushed the book in front of him. Look, this is the insect. At first, it was only as thin as a strand of hair and its body was only this long. It was black and white. As it hides in a person's body and absorbs spiritual energy and blood essence, it gradually grew larger. Moreover, the strangest thing about this insect is that it's male and female. Your father is using his own body to raise these insects. It would be strange if they didn't die. You're saying that my father raised them himself? He asked with wide eyes in astonishment. That's right, your father raised them himself. He used his own body to raise these spirit-devouring insects. Moreover, there's one on each side of his body. There's a legend about spirit-devouring insects. They're rare treasures that are raised with essence and blood. I'm guessing that your father raised them for this reason. However, he suffered a backlash and will probably die in a few days. Looking at the information recorded in the book on the table and hearing Fengzhou's words, he hurriedly walked into the room to check his father's left and right sides. Just as Fengzhou said, there was a slight bulge on both sides of his waist that resembled a wriggling worm. He couldn't help but jump in fright. He hurriedly ran out. Young Master Feng, then, can my father be saved? Please, you have to save my father. She rolled her eyes. Black and white impermanence, black and white impermanence. How could he be saved just because he wanted to? Moreover, these insects, now that how can they be so easy to get rid of them? It was rumored that if one fed the spirit-devouring bug with one's own blood and fattened it up, it would be forced out and refined into a blood pill, which had the miraculous effect of bringing the dead back to life. However, this was only a legend. It was fortunate that old man Duan dared to test it with his own life. Now, the insects were fattened, but he couldn't take it anymore and collapsed. His actions, in her opinion, were purely courting death. He was really too good at tormenting others. Then there's no saving him. My father can only wait for death. City Lord Duan staggered back with a face full of shock. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.